Hi there. I hope all is well with you and you are somehow weathering out this coronavirus disaster which is affecting the whole world. Last time in message number 2, I spoke about Jesus Christ as being both man and God, and that this realization gave me great peace and clarity in my own life. It also made me realize that events do not happen by chance or accident. God is totally in control of everything that happens to me and you. And that's very comforting to know when a catastrophe like the present one strikes us. How exactly are we to think of God and Jesus? Are they two separate beings? Two separate gods? Is one of them greater than the other? And if they are one God, how can he be on earth as Jesus and at the same time be in heaven or in control of the rest of the universe? These were the questions that I was facing after I understood that God had come to earth as the man Jesus Christ. The first thing to say about God is that he is not only the creator of the universe and everything that exists, but that he has always been and always will be. Before anything ever existed, God was there, and after even the whole universe comes to an end, God will still be there. God exists eternally. In the Bible's Old Testament, there is a story about how Moses sees a bush in the desert, which doesn't stop burning. He realizes that God is somehow appearing to him in that bush, and God talks to him. When Moses asks God his name, God replies, "I am who I am." I am who I am. That is the nature of God, always living and always present. And the Bible also describes God as having a hidden aspect which no man can ever see, also called the Father, and a creative outgoing aspect which is called the Word. In other words, the word that the Father speaks. This is how creation came into being. The Father spoke his word, not literally of course, and the universe was created. Everything that God created was good. God loved his creation. And the high point of God's creation, at least on our planet, was man. Man was the high point because God created him to reflect something of himself, something of his intelligence, something of his goodness, something of his love. Very often today, you will hear what, in my opinion, is an unnecessary debate. Did God create the universe in one go? Or did it evolve, as science teaches us? You know, actually, even Charles Darwin, who thought up the theory of evolution, even he believed in God. For him, there was no conflict between God and evolution. I have a brother-in-law who is a lecturer in geology, and he tells his students at the beginning of each academic year that he is a Christian. And he also knows very well that rocks and fossils of creatures appeared in different geological ages, stretching over hundreds of millions of years. And he says to his students, just in case you're going to ask me how I can reconcile my faith in God with evolution, I will tell you. In the Bible it says that with God, one day is like 1,000 years. So there's no reason why God should not create everything over a very long period of time. And then his students no longer ask him such questions. God created man to be a reflection of his own goodness and love. But when we look at man down the ages, and also man today, we don't see too much of this goodness and love. We see a lot of evil, violence, greed, betrayal, exploitation. People often resemble the devil more than they resemble God. And speaking of the devil, we haven't mentioned him before. Where does he come from? Where does evil come from? And what changed us from godly creatures into little devils? The Bible tells us that there was an evil force around which at some stage tempted man to do wrong. And we see this in the well-known story of Adam and Eve and the snake, which tempts them into disobeying God and eating fruit from a tree they weren't supposed to eat from. We can think of the story like this. When we are born, we are still in quite a godly state of being. Babies and very small children often give us the impression of being close to God, innocent, not yet touched by the dirtiness of this world. But there is already an evil presence in the world, which sooner or later will lead them astray as they grow up, not just once, but many times. In the Christian faith, God created only good creatures. The Bible tells us that among those creatures there were angels, superior, more intelligent and powerful creatures than ourselves, who dwelt in heaven, which God had also created along with the universe. But it was pride, a desire to be God himself, that led a leading angel to rebel against God, taking 1/3 of all the angels in heaven with him. They were banished from heaven to earth, becoming demons that tempt people to disobey God, sometimes even possessing or controlling people. These fallen angels or demons will be destroyed by God, but for now, he allows them to lead men and women astray. In the story of Adam and Eve and the snake represents that leading demon, also called the devil or Satan, who succeeds in getting Adam and Eve to disobey God. Adam and Eve represent our ancestors. And what the Bible says is that every human being inherits the sinfulness of those ancestors. You've probably seen trees with all the leaves on them covered in spots. The whole tree is sick. Well, that's how it is with the tree of man. Every new leaf that springs from it, in other words, every newborn child, is stained with the spots of sin and will by nature turn away from God. This inherited sinfulness is called original sin, and it shows the extent to which the devil comes into each person's life. And in fact, we are all helplessly sick because of sin, and by ourselves we can't get out of this mess. No way. We're not strong enough. And after death, we are in danger of going to the same place where the devil will go, to hell. God will punish us for having turned away from him. Even if it's only one sin, we have sinned against a holy God and deserve to be condemned. Have you ever tried to make and keep New Year resolutions? To give up your favorite indulgences as of January the 1st? For example, stop smoking, don't overeat, keep away from addictive computer games. It doesn't usually work, does it? And in the same way, we can think that we might save ourselves from being condemned by God by doing good deeds, trying to be nice and kind and so on. And we think that if we will try hard enough, we might score enough points for God to let us into heaven. And maybe that's what other religions believe and teach, but not Christianity. Christianity teaches, the Bible teaches, that no one can get to heaven by their own strength. We are too sinful. Our very nature inclines us towards sin. So we are like those spotted leaves on the tree. If God does not step in to help us, we will all die, being eternally separated from God. You will die like that, my friend. You cannot save yourself, no matter how good you try to be. This leads us to the $64,000 question. What must I do to be saved? If I can't do anything to save myself, how can I possibly be saved from hell? Is there any hope for me? Dear friend, I think those are the questions you should be asking yourself. Examine your conscience. How often have you turned away from God? Maybe you're turned away from Him right now. How often have you done or said or even thought things that you know God would condemn because He is holy? If you're honest, the answer will be many, many, many times. Your unbelief itself is a turning away from God, a rebellion, a thinking that you know better than God. If you're honest with yourself, you're not good and kind all the time at all. You're full of sin, you're full of impurity, and therefore you're heading for a disastrous confrontation with God. One day there will be a showdown. So, is there a way out? I shall look at the answer to that in my next message, message number 4. God bless.